I'm Joelle, and I have been reading They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I've heard a lot about the other two books that he has made, and then he co-wrote Infinity Sons, I think. Or it was the other one, maybe it's Us. Adam Silvera's writing was quite shocking and very much enjoyable. I liked how short each chapter was, and how when you did get to know each character, you felt like you really got an inside scoop basically on this person that normally you don't get. Sometimes it's the person, thinking to themselves, or you get a backstory that they're describing to you. It opened up all these doors and kept all these characters connected. He's an amazing writer, and I'm definitely going to have to read more of his books. On to what this story is about. A lot of people laughed at me because of how much I said I'm excited to read this book, because the title gives it away pretty much. They both die at the end. The point of this book, at least for me, was it's not about that the ending. It's what happens up to that point, and what these two main characters experience. So we have Matteo and Rufus. And Matteo is more of this introverted guy who wants to be himself, but feels like if he was himself, nobody would really want to hang out with him, or he wouldn't be able to have a lot of friends that actually enjoyed his company. So he's decided to live a life more isolated, just with one or two close friends that he trusts. Once he gets the phone call, he immediately regrets that decision, that he didn't enjoy life to the fullest. And he's 19, so he's still really young. Gosh, all these people, like you learn about all these people who died way too young, and it gets to me. That really gets to me. So probably a big point for me was when Matteo was so sad about missing everybody, and the person that he said he would miss the most is the future Matteo that he will never get to be. After Matteo and Rufus look on this app to find which friend they want, they ended up meeting each other in person and deciding to go on their last few adventures together. They realize how different they are. Rufus is like, let's just live life, we're fine. Let's just cross the street without looking. Let's ride on a bicycle. And Matteo's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's dangerous. And Rufus sees how sheltered Matteo's mind is. But then in one scene, he sees how kind he is. Well, in many scenes, he sees how kind he is, and how loving Matteo is, how much he wants to share that with everyone. And I think Matteo has always been like that, but with the fact that he knows he's dying now, he realizes, I have only a little bit time left to actually do these things for people and for things. So he finds a bird who died on the side of the road. And Matteo decides to take the time to pick the bird up, to put it and to bury it, and let it rest in peace. And Matteo kind of confuses Rufus with that. He's like, I've never seen anybody do something like this. And Matteo just said, well, I hope someone would do that for me. I'm probably explaining this terribly, but their character development throughout this whole story is amazing. They go on so many different adventures. They go through so many different trials as well of possibly dying. So there's an instance where you don't just get the chapters through them. So you see chapters of other people who are all connected. So every single person in this book is connected somehow with this little map. And it's not even just a person who walks by who happens to be a specific moment for them. All these little things just add up at the end of the book. It's amazing. I'm just gonna get this part out of the way because it's very emotional. His mom got the phone call, and then the person basically just said, hey, okay, now hand the phone over to your husband. And then they went, okay, now hand the phone over to your daughter. And Rufus was just waiting for his turn, and he never got it. He never was told that same day. And his family, knowing that it's inevitable, you cannot get past the point. You will die however you're supposed to. You just don't know how. Rufus and his family decide to go up to this mountain where it's their favorite spot. And so they're like, okay, if we're gonna die, we're just gonna end up going there and at least enjoy the time that we have. It was raining. They go on a bridge and they drive off the bridge. And Rufus just was so mad at himself for not dying with them. He had like survivor's remorse, but it was more like he was mad at them because in the car, like when he was, swimming up, he saw that they just gave up. But I don't know, like it was a really hard scene in the book to read. As like a young kid, to just watch your whole family die and then learn however many years later that you are also still as a kid going to die. Probably some of the sadder parts of this book were when from the beginning, Mateo is living on his own right now because his father is in a coma. And so his father's still alive, but he can't wake up, he can't talk to him, and learning that he's going to die, all he wants to do is see his dad, and it takes a really long time for him to actually take the courage to go to see his dad. He goes to see his dad eventually, leaves him a note, sings him his favorite song. He can't hear him, sadly, or at least you don't know if he can hear him. And then he continues his adventure with Rufus. He has one best friend named Lydia, and she eventually joins them for a little bit, on their adventures that they're going to. They have this whole world is very interesting. It's futuristic, but then very just modern day, how we would live, but with these extra benefits for people like that. So certain things are open 24/7 because you never know when you're going to die. That way these people can experience what they want to experience before they do pass away. Exciting. I wouldn't say exciting, but I guess just it shows you another point of view from someone who gets a phone call. So this guy named Vin gets the phone call, learns that he's dying, and is really upset. He had just lost his job, wasn't doing well in life, felt like a failure. And so he was a wrestler or a boxer, I can't remember. He is right around the same area that the two boys are, Mateo and Rufus are. And so they go into a bookstore right next to a gym that this guy Vin goes into to blow up. And this is this much in the book. So you're just this is either really serious or it's really not serious. Because we don't know when both of them are going to die. So you're just Anyway, what ends up happening is the explosion from the gym obviously brings a lot of damage to the bookstore that is right next door, and the two boys survive it, but then they see how many deckers. So that's what you're called if you are going to die. You're called a decker, which is really interesting. But I guess it's just kind of you have all these nicknames for things now in society as well, so that would be considered a nickname for what it is. So you have all these deckers surrounding them that have died. And all Rufus can think about is, wow, that's terrible luck that we were all in this place at the same time. We should have bracelets or necklaces or something. That way we know if we're all in the same area together. All right, back to Peck, the guy that Rufus beat up. He decided he wasn't just gonna be satisfied with the almost getting him thrown in jail in his last 24 hours. That wasn't gonna fly for him. So he decides to bring his entire group. So Rufus and the Plutos are kind of like a gang, and then Peck's group is kind of like a gang, but not I don't know how to say it, but it's like a gang, but they're not fully gangs. And so Peck brings his group to the club, and Peck, pulls a gun on Rufus, is about to kill him, and then Mateo tries to be superhero and stop the gun from being aimed at Rufus. And Peck notices this slight look that Rufus makes, and then this huge brawl happens, and you get another moment. Nothing happens. I'll just say that. I get that out of the way. Nothing happens. One of Peck's friends, Kendrick, is about to fight Mateo, and he notices that he recognizes him. Earlier on in the book, Mateo mentions that there's this boy like a few years ago that was running, like had a bloody face, looked like he just got beaten up. He got mugged, like his shoes got taken from him. He was just running around the streets barefoot, scared and injured. And Mateo decides to take off his own shoes, give them to the boy, and like ask if he was okay, you know, see if he was all right. And that little bit of kindness, Kendrick remembered that and refused, like just was like, I'm not gonna, like, let's stop. No, I'm not gonna do that to you. And that gave Rufus and Mateo a chance to run away and let the Plutos, Rufus's friends, take over the fight with the rest of the group that they were fighting. Just like, it shows like the huge connection and like the positive things that happen when you do something nice for someone. And this is why I love this book. Like, it just was really, everything about this book shows such positivity, even with such a negative topic, that I could not put it down. It was amazing. Into the end of the book, Rufus and Mateo end up heading back to Mateo's house. So they're like, okay, let's just stay here. Maybe we can ride this out, you know, being probably what a majority of people do at the end when they realize there's no way out of it. It's just like, let's just stay here and maybe nothing will happen. And so Mateo sings the song again for Rufus, and he sings Your Song by Elton John for Rufus. And you're like, crying, I'm crying, everybody's crying. They have many moments. They're like, let's just stay on the bed. No one can get us if we just don't get on the bed. And then hours, I think it was just like a few hours later, Mateo gets off the bed. And when he does that, he's like, oh, I'll just make some tea or food. He decides to turn on the stove. Earlier in the book, very, very subtly, he, you know, tries to remind the neighbor that the stove needs to be fixed. It wasn't working right. And when he turned on the stove, he had forgotten. And as he turned it on, he like had that moment when he realized that he was gonna die. It's so sad. It's such a sad moment. The next thing you know is you're seeing Rufus's perspective, and you're seeing Rufus's perspective because Mateo is dead. Rufus is woken up by smoke, by the alarm, by fire everywhere, and he runs to find Mateo. He goes out of the hallway and not knowing what happened, like not knowing, like, did he leave me? Where did he go? What happened? And the neighbor is like, I was gonna fix the stove. I didn't get a chance to fix it yet. And so he runs back in and he finds Mateo's burnt body and is like shouting at him, telling him to wake up, dragging his, like, you know, body all the way across the apartment to get out the door, trying to save his life. And then they get out of the apartment, they get him on the, like, in the ambulance truck, and they're like getting a body bag ready, and he's like, no, you can't put him in, he's not dead. He's like, it's just a scene in a book that gets you, like, you feel every bit that's happening because you've developed such love for both of these characters that you feel it in Mateo's perspective, you know, like, I left somebody, and then you feel it in Rufus's perspective, no, he can't leave me. So he goes and he calls Mateo's friend, Lydia. Why am I crying? You see, this is why I can't read these books. Okay. He goes and calls Lydia, Mateo's friend, and, you know, tells her, like, it officially happened. Yeah, and so once he gets off the phone, he decides that he wants to go to his favorite park because he doesn't have a lot of time either. And right as he is about to step off the curb, or as he steps off the curb, heading into the park, he gets hit by a car. And the car that hits him is by the man who gave him the phone call that he was going to die, who worked at Deathcast. And that's how a good book is written. If you didn't understand what just happened, Victor was the person that called Rufus and told him that he was going to pass away. Victor is engaged to this girl named Delilah, and Delilah gets a phone call that she is going to die. And she thinks because it was right after she broke off the engagement with Victor that it's a lie. So he's like, what? No, you couldn't have gotten the call. Like, he's super frantic, freaking out, super frustrated. This is hours and hours after he contacted Rufus. Because of him speeding to get to his ex, he doesn't see Rufus in the road. The whole book, Mateo is telling Rufus to look both ways, and you're probably gonna die by a car because you don't. The subtle foreshadowing that Adam has done has made me like such a huge fan of his writing, and I am such a huge fan of him now. I cannot recommend this book enough because it's not about the ending. It's about everything coming up to that point and their lives, and just the idea that there are so many good one-liners in this book. Sorry if you hear rain outside, it just started pouring. But like this one-liner, and you wouldn't have waited for me to be brave. Maybe it's better to have gotten it right and been happy for one day instead of living a lifetime of wrongs. And in the beginning of this book, he also, makes, an author's little note that most do. And it says, for those who need a reminder to make every day count. When you find an author who genuinely wants you to get something out of their story, it makes it so much more enjoyable. I don't know. I'm getting all like feelsy over here. I'm getting like super emotional about a book. But it's that good. I enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. If you have not read this book, please do it. For your sanity, I recommend it. For a new perspective, I recommend it. And for anyone who's just wanting to try something different, this is a great book. So anyway, thanks for watching and having me rant again about a book that I talked way too much about. Stay tuned.